now I'll introduce someone who's well known to many of you. He's a prof at UW. He's a remarkable lead activist in London, has been for decades. He's, of course, the co-chair of the Council of Canadians London chapter, and he was the MC of the rally this morning to free Palestine and a force with People for Peace. Welcome to David Heap to speak.
Let's go, David.
Hi folks, I'll be brief. I think the mic batteries, somebody told me the batteries are giving way, which is a good signal to be brief. We've heard from Bob about some of the changes we need to make. I need us to remind ourselves that we have the power. We shouldn't look to somebody else to do this for us. We are the people we've been waiting for. We shouldn't wait any longer. We have the power. We need to do this. We do this by following the money. Bob talked about the amount that lobbyists are spending to defend their profits. They're spending it to pervert the course of our democratic systems. We need to take those back. We need to point to the money, and we need to say, we don't need new sources of wealth to fund the action we need to stop climate change and save what's left of our planet. The wealth is there. We need to direct the wealth towards saving the planet instead of lining rich people's pockets and corporate pockets. Some of this can be done by taxing them. And the carbon tax is a nice tiny little step, a couple of decades too late, but it's in the right direction, except now they're backing up on the carbon tax because that's what politicians do. Yeah, shame. So taxing them is one important approach, but we need to do more to defund them. I'm seeing defund fossil fuels here, and we can do that in the way that Gratiana said, by getting institutions like my employer and hers, Western, important public institutions, to divest from fossil fuels. So divestment now is important at all levels. Okay, so it's institutions, it's municipalities, it's also our pension funds. If you have ever worked in this country and paid CPP, you are invested in fossil fuels, and you should demand that your investment defend your future, not put your future in danger. Investment boards visit these communities, but you shouldn't wait for them to visit. We should all demand, I shouldn't say you, we all need to demand that our investments in CPP be diverted away from planetary destruction and towards protecting the earth that sustains us all. So we need to defund them. We need to divest from them. Divesting from them also means divesting from corporations like Chevron, as I mentioned at an earlier rally today, that is responsible for stealing Palestinian resources under the sea off Gaza, is responsible for the blockade of the reasons behind the blockade of Gaza, the apartheid blockade of Gaza. But Chevron is an example of a corporation that, from the Amazon to the Arctic to the Middle East, is despoiling the earth, depriving indigenous people of their traditional lands, and lining their own pockets, and of course spending to influence our politicians. So we need to divest, we need to boycott these corporations, and ultimately we need the state to sanction them. We need some of the legislation that Bob mentioned, but we need to demand better. We can defund them on an individual level, but quite frankly, the amount I spend on, or you spend on petroleum products isn't going to get us there. We need our institutions to do it. We need our governments to do it at all levels. The Council of Canadians slogan, People, Planet, Democracy, we stand for, among other things, proportional representation. If Canadians had an electoral system that actually elected a government that represents us, they would not be as liable to being bought by corporations. So proportional representation is a terrible slogan. I'm not going to try to make you chant it, but look up Fair Vote Canada and understand how in every country that has proportional representation, they have better environmental policies, better human rights policies, better policies that reflect the will and the interests of their populations over the corporations. So we need to tax fossil fuel corporations, end this fossil foolishness that's destroying our planet. We need to divest from them. We need to cut their sources of funding. And ultimately, we need to say that all of these sources of wealth are not private goods. They are public goods. And if there's going to be a corporation, it needs to be publicly owned and publicly controlled. We don't want to take over more pipelines. We don't want to take over more gas fields in the public's name. We want those businesses to disappear and say that those sources of wealth need to fund the transition towards a green economy, a peaceful economy, economy that funds human needs, not corporate profits. And just to as a reminder of who's going to do this, I came down to this T-shirt not because I love the maple leaf on the old Canadian Council of Canadians logo. Maple leaves are okay. It just doesn't always stand for stuff that I agree with. It's because on the back there's a slogan. You can come and read it later, from Maud Barlow, who is associated with water protection and environmental justice and economic justice. And Maud was fond of telling people at meetings, if you want to know who's going to save the planet, go home and look in the mirror. Nice. But don't go home yet. Look around before you go home. We are our friends here. The folks who showed up calling for a ceasefire to save Palestinians in Gaza are the same folks who are going to march with us until we see divestment from fossil fuels and a green economy, a peaceful economy in this country, until we shut down the death merchants who are sending war material overseas to oppress people and steal their resources. We march together for a greener planet, for a safer planet, for a more just economy.